Imagine saying that all day to the point where it's just automatic, it's natural. Imagine being the person that you want to be, being the person with the amount of money in your bank account, being the person who can give generously, being the person who has a lover that adores you and cherishes you, being a person that is an excellent, conscious parent and has this cool relationship with their kids, being a person that is surrounded by people that love and respect you. What would it feel like to be the person that you want to be? And
Welcome to Winning the Divine Lottery. I'm your host, Amy Dawes.
if Florence Scovel Shinn and Neville Goddard had a baby, that's how I wanted to start off today's podcast. I just came up with that in my mind and I made myself laugh. I was digging into Neville Goddard's work. I was really inspired to share, inspire, challenge, invite, and have you experiment with your states of being, your consciousness. Because Neville Goddard says consciousness is the only reality. And you can switch your state that you're in at any moment, at any time, by simply changing the way you feel. Today, I'm going to dive deep into a story that, if you pay attention to how you feel while you're listening to it and take notes and don't judge yourself, don't criticize yourself, but pay attention to how you feel because that is going to be the wisdom and the knowledge that you need for yourself to show you what states of consciousness that you're in the most, and also the ones that you resist, and also the ones that you want to play in, but there might be something holding you back. All right, story time. This is really, I'm just going to pause here for a second because I really want you to start experimenting with your states of being because you get to and because you get to play. So I'm taking you back to last summer when I was sitting on a deck on a beautiful, almost summer day. All we had was an appetizer, and the waitress brought us our receipt. And I don't know what compelled me to do this, some form of inspiration. I asked her, pick your own tip. I was just in this energy and this flow of, let's just see, being in love with life. And she got uncomfortable right away. And she's like, don't make me do this. She resisted. I was like, no, just go ahead, pick your tip. So she handed me back the machine and she picked zero. She didn't pick a tip. And you should, I don't know if my face was more profound than her face when I was asking her to pick her tip, but I was like, no, like this isn't right. And thank goodness my friend tipped her on behalf of what she didn't pick for herself. But I was on this mission. Like I was so inspired to change the way specifically women receive. But this is for y'all, okay? Please listen. As a woman, having another woman serve me and her pick zero was just a reflection of how worthy we believe we are to receive. And this is for me too. So every time I went out with a friend, we went out for supper or something like that, I was inspired to help play the game of receiving. And what I notice is every time, every single time, I ask the waitress, pick your tip, or what would you like for a tip? They were so resistant to that. Number one, it made them feel so uncomfortable. Number two, they went right into like, I don't know. I don't know. I can't do that, right? I feel guilty. All the comments I received We're not surprising. But at the same time, I'm like, this needs to change. Like, this is the Matrix. The Matrix teaches us that we should feel guilty for receiving. We should feel embarrassed and ashamed for asking for what we want. And yet we talk about manifestation like it's so new age. And yet when opportunity presents itself to us, we refuse. We say no. We resist because it is so ingrained in the system of the matrix to not receive. Woo. And every time I did this, it was always from a place of pure inspiration. I always felt in flow and aligned. It was spontaneous. It's not like before I went out, I planned that I was going to do this. It was an in the moment thing. I was very, very present in the moment. And I started to have so much fun because despite what the waitress or the waiter did or how they reacted, I was able to be a space of generosity, love, fun, kindness, compassion, encouragement, like that mirror reflection of no, don't you know how valuable you are? Don't you know your worth? Don't you know? Do you know that you didn't need to do anything to get to this moment? And there is somebody in front of you here willing to give you what you want or more than you think you want? And what naturally started occurring was my friends got inspired. And then we'd attract larger groups of people, and they got inspired by this. It was like the state of being that I was in when I was in this was I was free to give the way I wanted to give. I was free to have fun. I was free to express my playfulness and my love for life and my love for just being able to like for no reason at all play this game of what do you really want? Well, what do you want? Well, what would be a really incredible tip? What's a tip that would make you go, wow, or oh my God? Like, what's that tip? I want to know what that tip is. And it it blew up this energy bubble of receivership. And my friends started to receive this energy. And then they started to want to give in the same way from the same state of being. And most recently, my experience, and listen, I don't do this every single time I go out. Like I said, I don't make it work. I do it when I'm in the flow, when I'm inspired, when I'm feeling spontaneous, when I get that intuitive like nudge. Oh, Amy, do it. Do it now. Okay? That's when I do it. So my most recent experience was I was invited out to a birthday supper and I met a whole bunch of new women there. And I didn't plan that I'm going out for dinner, that I'm going to do this. But when the waitress came over and handed me my bill, it was like an immediate, automatic, most natural response. And I asked her, well, what do you want for a tip? And she's like, no, no, no. She did not want to do that. She did not want to play this game. And my whatever, the machine that she held me timed out because I was having this moment with her. And it was awesome because all the women around me were like so supportive and encouraging of her and they were all like we're not putting you on the spot. We're here to empower you. Like it's women empowering women, right? And that's when I asked her, I said, what's that number? What's that tip that would make you go, "Oh my gee." And she said, 100%. And now it was my friend's birthday, so I offered to pay for her dinner. So 100% it was a good tip. And I put my glasses on and I'm doing my thing and I handed it back to her. And this is when I wish I had a camera because she literally did the, oh my God. She literally did the oh my God face. It was the most fun, cutest, coolest thing I've ever experienced. And when you're in that energy bubble, when you're in that container, this vortex of just like it's purity, it's pureness, it's natural. We are at our most natural state actually when our hearts are open and we want to give and we want to have fun and we want to play and we want to uplift and we want to empower. And it's all because we're being actually fully present. We're not doing it to get something. We're not doing it to make ourselves look good. We are just being. We are being. And if you haven't already figured this out, I'm inviting you, challenging you to start play the tipping game. To start playing the tipping game. Now, I know so many people who only ever tip 10%, and I know people who don't tip at all, especially if they don't have good service. And I've done it all. And the moment I started doing this, everything changed for me. Everything changed for me. I no longer judge good service with receiving a tip, and I'm going to show you what started to come back in my life. I took my son out for dinner to a regular restaurant that I go to. I love the food, I love the service, I love the atmosphere. And it is a restaurant that I have tipped very well at, and despite that, it doesn't matter, okay? So we sat for an hour and our waitress only came by our table once. And it got to the point where my son was done his dinner. He wanted to order dessert. I was still eating mine. Just, you know what I mean? She kept going by us. She would look at the other tables and not come to us. And I know it was busy. And at the same time, I was like, yeah, I just want to pay my bill and go. Like this wasn't the preferred experience, but I wasn't angry. It was just time to go. So I got up and I went and found another girl and I said, we just want to pay our bill. Our waitress only came by our table once. We're just ready to go. And she was like, oh no. And she pointed to our table three times to make sure she knew where we were sitting. And then she looked at me and said, don't worry, your meal's on us. And guess what happened to me? I had the same reaction as all of those waitresses that I asked, pick your tip. Now it was flipped back on me, and I got to experience the resistance to receiving. And I said things like, oh no, I don't want her to get in trouble. Oh no. Like I felt guilty. I felt embarrassed because I brought something to their attention, right? And it took me probably about 5 to 10 minutes after we left the restaurant to talk it out loud with my son and be like, still, I would rather receive under a different circumstance, right? But I knew that this was the universe mirroring back to me. Now I got to experience being on the receiving end. And all I needed to say was, still, I would prefer to have this receivership experience under different circumstances. That's all I said. And I allowed the situation to be what it was. And I was reaffirmed that she wasn't going to get in trouble, that they have really high standards, that they have a certain account set aside for when things like this happen. And it just goes to show you how we are so scared of what other people will think of us when we bring something that isn't up to our standards or something that um, isn't our preference, isn't what we would prefer to somebody's attention. Now, that is different than complaining. Complaining would have looked like me sitting there humming and hawing, being like, oh my God, where is she? Blah, blah, blah. And then going when I went to pay to really like, you know, bitch and complain. That's not what I did. I brought it to her attention. Fast forward Christmas time, which was just recently. My mom was here. We went out to the same restaurant, different location. My mom's best friend since they were little came with us, and we were already having a somewhat late dinner. I was very concerned about my mom because we were sitting by the door and it's winter here and she gets cold very easily. So right away I could feel like this pattern of just wanting everything to go good, and no real hiccups. And the waitress came over to our table and she was so cute and so nice right off the bat. And the only person that ordered a starter was my son. He got a Caesar salad. And it took a little bit to get a Caesar salad even. But he was done a Caesar salad and our waitress hadn't come by our table again. And we were kind of wondering where our food was. And I think I was wondering just a little bit more just because my mom and her friend were with us. And so I had gotten up at one point just to go look for where our waitress was to see if I could see her somewhere. And one of the ladies at the front saw me, and I was like, oh, we were just wondering where our waitress is and kind of where our food's at. She's like, oh, I think she's dealing with lots of gift cards. Let me go find her. And so I went and sat back down, and it was less than 5 minutes that a completely different person came over. Excuse me, a male waiter. And he was right away, you could feel the energy shift. He was so vibrant, so charismatic, so just bubbly. And he's like, well, I have good news and bad news for you. The bad news is your meal's missing. The good news is everything you order is on the house tonight. I'm like, I was like 2 times in a row. I was like, this just happened. But do you see my reaction, even in me sharing this story with you? Right away, I was like, okay, it's already under different circumstances because we hadn't been waiting there for an hour. we, and this man that came over was just he was so incredible. And what ended up happening was he came back and forth. I don't know. It had to be close to 10 times for the duration that we were there enjoying our meal. And he told us stories and he just made us smile and he made sure we were so well taken care of. He made sure we went home with desserts. He was just so amazing. He made sure that my name was on their guest tracker list so that the next time I go in, that I get the ultimate supreme service. I'm like, come on, you guys. Like, what restaurant does that happen in? And it's very rare in my experience. And now, do I want to continue going back there? Yeah. Now I want to take all my friends there. Like, how much fun is that? So, this is the byproduct of what is starting to show up in my life because I started this tipping game. Now, I want to highlight here, I did not start tipping to look for getting free meals. This is something you need to know right off the bat is you don't start experimenting with things in life to get something because right away that's coming from a place of lack. When I started tipping, I wanted to change. I wanted to experiment. I wanted to make an imprint to how people received. That's what I wanted. And I wasn't excluded from that. Obviously, I didn't tell the universe, oh, please exclude me from that. No, now I got to receive as well under different circumstances. And not just in restaurants, but I'm using the restaurants because they're kind of correlated, obviously, with the tipping thing. But I didn't set out that I'm going to be this person who goes and tips to see how many free meals I can get. No, 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 no in the moment back last summer at the beginning of summer, it was like this divine drop in. I just happened to ask the waitress, pick your tip. And then she picked zero. And zero was just like not satisfactory to me. I was like, that is not satisfactory. And did you know that we get to live satisfactory lives? We do. I'll never forget. Every time I say that word now, I see it so differently. I hear Dr. Joe Dispenza saying, "Were you satisfied with your efforts?" To that makes me want to like get up and do a celebration dance and go because who I'm being determines if I am satisfied with my efforts, not the results I get. The results are like the natural byproduct of who you're being. But you don't go looking for them because if you go looking for them, you're lacking them. When you're being in the energy, when you're being in the state of consciousness, that is that person. Oh, and this is a game changer. I am who I want to be. Neville Goddard says that quote. And you know, most of us are trying to make changes in our life to get something, to change something externally or physically in our lives. And we do it from the same state of consciousness. We do it from the same subconscious program. But when I heard that, it might not be the same for you, but when I heard that, that landed like the kingpin. Florence Scovel Shinn says you have to find the kingpin. Neville Goddard says a form of it too. You have to find that perfect statement that encompasses your desire, that when you say it, it automatically takes you into that state of being. It automatically takes you into assuming that you already are the person you want to be. And that statement is, I am who I want to be. That leaves nothing out. That leaves nothing to change. That leaves, I don't have to do anything. That means I don't have to effort or will my way through things. That means I am already that which I want to be. I am the person I want to be. Imagine saying that all day to the point where it's just automatic, it's natural. Imagine being the person that you want to be, being the person with the amount of money in your bank account, being the person who can give generously, being the person who has a lover that adores you and cherishes you, being a person that is an excellent, conscious parent and has this cool relationship with their kids, being a person that is surrounded by people that love and respect you. What would it feel like to be the person that you want to be? And you know what this whole unfolding has shown me about me are in that moment. I love who I'm being. I love who I'm being. I am who I want to be in those moments because that state is so natural for me. It's so effortless. It requires no effort to be that way. The only time to be that way that would require effort is if I'm being some other way. If I'm being in lack, if I'm being holding, not giving, like holding on because I don't have enough. And I'm not just talking about money. Holding on to anything, holding on to being kind, holding on to showing compassion, holding on to forgiveness, holding on to creativity. Whoa. Holding on to self-expression in this way. You know, as a podcaster, as a solo entrepreneur for 18 years almost, as a solo mom, like I should write a book about solo. What's your solo? Because if you can do it solo, you can do it with anyone or anything. That's my new motto. The one thing that I've learned is us soloists, have a tendency to compare ourselves to everyone and everything, and we can get caught up in that matrix really, really quickly. Why? Because soloists have a very similar core wound, and that is the belief that we're not worthy and we're not enough. And if we operate that by that, we are going to keep meeting that edge and that pattern over and over and over again until we take the leap and be like, why am I holding back? Listen, I started posting my podcasts on YouTube. I watch other people's YouTube videos and they have like the zooming out and zoom in thing and all these fancy, nice intros and everything like that. And maybe one day I will be in the energy of being able to create that for myself. But does that take away from my essence? Does that take away from my brilliance? Does that take away from what wants to be expressed here, right now, in the moment? Absolutely a hell no. So, whoever is listening to this now, if there's something that you're not doing, if you're holding back because of whatever excuse that you can come up with, which is a limitation, which is go behind that, it's a belief, it's something that you perceive about yourself and you perceive about the world. And again, I hear, what? Dr. Joe Dispenza coming up, and he says, if you're not willing to do it right now, that's a program. You're allowing the program to run the show, not the present moment to run the show. The present moment would be just start the podcast, just start. The present moment would be like just start that business, just start. The present moment would hit record on an Instagram reel and just say what you want to say. If anything, we are living in a golden age of authenticity, and that's what people want. And it doesn't matter. See, there are going to be people who don't like my self-expression and my authenticity, and that I don't have these fancy zoom in, zoom outs, and the fancy intro and everything like that. No, it's just me with my laptop, my microphone, my two lights, and my pretty lights with one burnt out behind me. Real life. But, and we are in this world, but not of this world. We're in the 3D physical reality, but we are not of it. We're energy. So it matters the energy that you bring, the energy that you give, the energy that's coming through you. And this stuff, this equipment, I am so grateful. I am so grateful that I have this. It's enough. It's enough. And when I believe it's enough, and that I have enough, and that I have everything that I need right here, right now to get this message that wants to come through me for you, that's enough. And life will take care of the rest. Life will take care of me. Life will bring me to the place where I will be hiring a team and creating these beautiful videos if that's what I truly want. If that's what makes me feel delighted and surprised. Mm. That's the other thing I'm thinking about when I tip. It's because I want to, not because I have to. I want to. I want to. I love the feeling. I love, I love the feeling and I love the unfoldment of it because it's still unknown. Like you still don't know exactly how the waiter or waitress is going to react. You don't know. And so when you're being spontaneous and inspired and in the moment and fully present and generous and your heart's open, there's still so many unknowns in that. And I love creating those experiences for myself and others. And I still I still believe that every act of beingness that we consciously choose that is good and loving has a ripple effect that we'll never ever know. Like I could viscerally see the ripple effect it had around the women around me, even to the point to tell you what's unfolded since then. One of the girls that was sitting around the table messaged me on Instagram saying that she did the same thing while she was away on a holiday with her boyfriend. I'm like, that's awesome. Do you see what's happening here? You be the change that you want to see in the world. That's what this means. Be the change that you want to see in the world. And it might not be tipping for you. It might be something totally else, but be open. Be open. The other part is, how do you know what that money meant to that person? How do you know that it didn't change something for them in their lives? How do you know that they didn't go and tell that story to like whoever, how many people, their friends, their family, and what that did for them, these stories of inspiration, you know? That's that is invaluable. That's priceless. That's worth all the money in the universe, which is limitless to me. That's what winning the divine lottery is about. I am being the divine lottery in my most natural, unique essence. I am being that. And I will tell you, I still have days of the old program of lack. I have moments where it's like, oh Amy, it kicks up a little bit of a fit and says, "Are you forgetting about me? Like this is what you're used to, right?" And that's what that's what the programs are designed to do. That's the matrix. It's designed to keep you caught in the web instead of realizing you're the spider. Yeah. So, takeaways. Look at your notes. Did you take notes or were you fully present? It'd be cool to hear. What were your takeaways? I can share my takeaways from sharing this story with you is even storytelling, story sharing, when it's fueled with this kind of passion and inspiration is life-giving. And I am a life giver. I am devoted to being a life giver, not a life taker. That could be for a whole other episode, by the way, because I've taken, like all of us have, without even consciously recognizing it. Yeah, there's an energy to it that is sneaky and manipulative and very unconscious. So, storytelling, like, if, okay, if you're the leading lady, leading man, or whatever you identify as of your life, that means you get to create who you want to be. It doesn't always mean that we can control what's happening outside of us, but it does get to mean that we get to shape our character. And we get to shape our character in a way that it serves our soul. We get to have fun. We get to create empowering experiences, memories that last for eternity, well beyond your physical presence in this world. Doesn't that excite you? It excites me. It's compelling to think of it that way. So that's another takeaway. It's time. If you haven't been living as the leading person in your life, I have a whole course about that. It's called the Red Carpet Express. This one specifically is for women only. It starts in February. Message me, DM me, go to my website if you want to learn, and it's a lot of fun. We do a lot of what I just shared with you on this podcast together. Because here's the thing, real change comes from doing it, being it, experiencing it, not just talking about it. We have to experience it within and then without. We get to do both. Yeah. But if you're not the leading person in your life and you'd like to be, try the tipping game. See all the things about yourself you overcome just by tipping differently. Start there and journal your experience. Talk about it. Tell somebody who will listen. What do you have to lose, really? The only thing we ever have to lose through expansion is the parts of us that weren't really ever us. They were lies built on a foundation of programs that we were conditioned, hypnotized to believe that were us. When the truth is, nope. Side effect to playing the tipping game, when you play it for fun, when you play it through a sense of curiosity and as an experiment, is an open heart, which means you're going to experience more love in your life. My favorite thing in the world is to experience more love because love brings so much joy and so much healing and so much glowiness. Like my face is lit up right now. I can see it. I've learned to be able to look at myself through the eyes of God. Not always, but when I'm in moments like this, it's sure easy to do. Can you look at other people through the eyes of God? Can you look at that waitress or that waiter through the eyes of God? Can you look at them beyond their body, beyond how well they served you? And can you open your heart and decide that you're going to be part of the change that you want to see in the world? I'll leave you with this. If we truly live in an abundant universe with unlimited money, then eventually every single one of us will have to come to experience that. And that starts with you. We are abundant. We were created from an abundance of love. And everything that we could ever desire, wish is right here. We just only need to start being that person. I love you. If you found this episode valuable in any way, I would love your support. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Spotify, podcast, Apple. Leave me a 5-star review. I love hearing your questions and your comments. I love answering people's questions. So if anything comes up from this episode for you that you want me to dive into deeper, please leave them for me. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I love you.
If you like this video, please share it with a friend. Thanks so much.